I hope everybody will take as many pictures and everything as they want to today. The only stipulation is you have to send them to me. Send me copies.
Yes, sir.
I've got a sign-in sheet. If you were at the one earlier, it's a whole new sign-in sheet. Please sign in again afterwards. There's water available for anybody who needs it. It's a hot one today. Oh, and I'm going to do the welcome. Grab some. Also on the table, there's a book of all the research I did for today, and a couple of pictures and books I used. For part of the welcome, I wanted to read a little bit out of the introduction for this book. It's called A Fate Worse Than Death. This book is written by Gregory and Susan Mincho, and it's all about Indian captives. So part of the frontier, the danger of being on the frontier out in the west is that there was potential to have some family members captured and taken away by Indians, and they became captives. So this is about that. But anyway, I wanted to read this out of the introduction. It says, "The very act of relating the stories is not a politically correct exercise. The stories are replete with details of killing, mutilation, abuse, and rape. There is no particular joy in relating what the captives experienced, but there is need for it. Over the past several decades, there has been a dramatic shift in perception about old heroes and villains. Today, white Americans are depicted as savage and greedy barbarians, while the Indians are said to have lived in peace with ecological wisdom. These role reversals illuminate history less than they simply elevate one group at the expense of another. The old view of the good pioneer and the bad Indian was not correct, but neither is the contrary. In this collection, we hope to illustrate the real threat that Indians posed on the frontier, a menace that should not be denied through sugar-coated history. The point here is not to disparage Indians, but rather to let the captive's own words illustrate the true situation, which should then expose as charlatans those writers who would distort or deny the horrors of captivity. The historical scales need to be balanced." And I think that's very true. You know, for so long it was cowboys good, Indians bad, and now it's completely flipped. Well, it shouldn't be flipped. It should be balanced and looked at that way. And so we'll look at that today. So I thank everybody for coming, and my brother Mitchell's going to lead us in the pledges. Come on up.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one nation, indivisible.
Thank you, Mitchell. And now, Cousin Brian Balcom's going to come up and do our opening prayer.
We'll do that from here.
Do it from right there. That's good.
That's great. Father God, we thank you so much for this beautiful event. Big brother, grandfather, uncle, whatever the case may be. Just wonderful service, Texas Rangers. Thank you for the Ranger group that willing to come out and dedicate this cross for him. And Cousin Devin, all his hard work to get it bless each one here today. Let us all become more acquainted as we visit around the circle today. God direct us now as we continue with this service. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Okay. And then I'm going to read a biography. I'm going to tell everybody real quick how I'm related. This is my dad, Ronnie Pipes. And then it's my grandmother, Susie Winsett Pipes Rush. And then her dad, Roy Winsett. And then from him it goes to his mother, Martha Ella Gunn Winsett. And her mother was Martha Ellen Huckobey Gunn. And Martha Ellen's father was William Riley Huckobey. So that's how I'm related. He's my fourth great-grandfather. Stand over here in the shade. William Riley Huckobey was born March 16, 1816 in Nashville, Tennessee to John and Nancy Huckobey. Little is known about Huckobey's early years. He moved to Missouri, possibly on his way to Texas, and met a woman named Elizabeth Ann, or Betsey, Crossley Tanner, a divorced woman with 6 children from her first husband. Betsey Crossley was born in 1814 in Tippecanoe County, Indiana, to George Crossley Sr. and Mariah Martin. Betsey Crossley married Jonathan Tanner on December 1st, 1831 in Tippecanoe County, Indiana. She was his second wife. Jonathan Tanner and Betsey Crossley probably divorced, however, no divorce case has been located at this time. A marriage record from Polk County, Missouri, dated August 2nd, 1845, appears to be the correct record for William Riley Huckobey and Elizabeth Ann Betsey Crossley's wedding. Huckobey's new stepchildren included James Tanner, Lavisa Tanner, Solomon Tanner, Isaac Tanner, Melinda Tanner, and Solomon Tillman Tanner. Huckobey became a father when Betsey gave birth to a daughter named Lydia Ann Huckobey, who was apparently born on February 14, 1844 in Arkansas. So you can do the math on that. If they were married in 45 and she was born in 44, we won't ask questions. But that's her buried right there. A second daughter was born in 1847 in Tennessee, named Elizabeth Betsey Huckobey. The third Huckobey daughter, Mary Carolyn Huckobey, was born in 1850 in Texas. The 1850 U.S. Census lists the Huckobey family as living in Shelby County, which is in East Texas. By 1850, William Riley Huckobey is listed in the census as a 25-year-old. He was actually 34. Regardless of the age discrepancy, he was listed as a farmer living with his 36-year-old wife, Elizabeth Betsey, his 5-year-old daughter, Lydia, 3-year-old Elizabeth, 3-month-old Mary Carolyn, and his stepson, James Tanner, who was 17. In 1852, Huckobey became a father to his first son, who was named Thomas Huckobey. The Tanner family had to deal with the shock of their father's, Betsey's ex-husband's, murder. And the May 22nd, 1852 edition of the Texas State Gazette published the following story titled Another Murder. A letter to the editors of this paper, dated Lockhart, May 17th, gives the following particulars of another murder in that town. Again, has the citizens of this beautiful village of Live Oaks been called upon to regret another effusion of blood today between 12 and 1 o'clock. Mr. Samuel Wilson shot Mr. Jonathan Tanner. Mr. Tanner's wound is supposed to be mortal. From what I know of the circumstances and from the information of others, which I believe to be true, Mr. Wilson was most perfectly justifiable. About this, the minds of the community do not differ. Though it is to be regretted that such an occurrence took place, no one, I believe, blames Mr. Wilson. 4:30 p.m., Mr. Tanner is still alive, but I've been informed that his physician says he cannot live till morning. 5 o'clock p.m., his attendant, physician Dr. Teal, says that Mr. Tanner must die before sundown, end quote. With Jonathan Tanner murdered, the Tanner children would only have one parent still living, which was their mother, Elizabeth or Betsey Huckobey, and William Riley Huckobey was their stepfather. In August of 1855, Betsey Huckobey gave birth to Martha Ellen Huckobey. 4 years later, in May 1859, one last child was born to William Riley and Betsey Huckobey. It was a son named William Riley Huckobey Jr. The following year, the 1860 U.S. Census lists William Riley Huckobey as a 41-year-old farmer living in Comanche County, Texas, with his 46-year-old wife, Elizabeth Betsey, his 16-year-old daughter Lydia, his 13-year-old daughter Elizabeth, his 11-year-old daughter Mary Carolyn, his 8-year-old son Thomas, his 5-year-old daughter Martha Ellen, and his 1-year-old son William Riley Jr. 1860 was an election year, and Abraham Lincoln won the presidency. America was sharply divided over issues of slavery and states' rights. Several southern states, including Texas, broke away from the Union to form the Confederate States of America. The American Civil War, a war between the states, began in 1861. Texas only had a few small battles, while most of the major fighting occurred farther east. Texas supplied a lot of men to go and fight for the Confederacy, which left many areas without the men and weapons to defend themselves properly from Plains Indian attacks. The Plains Indians consisted of the Comanches, Apaches, and Kiowas. The Texas Rangers were the best means of frontier defense during the Civil War. Texas was still very much a frontier to the north and the west during that time. Before the Civil War, there was no organization by the official title of Texas Rangers. Between the Mexican War and the Civil War, they were called out in emergencies, sometimes for periods up to 6 months, but never became a permanent institution until 1874. The tendency has been to picture them as an elite fighting body, when actually they consisted of citizens who lived in the frontier counties, men who by necessity learned the art of plains warfare from their enemies. For the most part, they were an undisciplined group of civilian volunteers who would follow only men they trusted and who had proved themselves in battle. As these Rangers or Minute companies were usually called out only in emergency, the Indian raid normally had already taken place. The Rangers' job was then to pursue and, if possible, destroy the retreating enemy. The withdrawal of U.S. federal troops from the frontier of Texas at the start of the Civil War required the Texas Rangers to become a more organized group, and the men recruited to join had to be over 18 but under 45 years of age, a good rider and marksman, a person of good moral character, and not a professional gambler or habitual drunkard. Each man was to provide his own horse, saddle, blankets, canteen, 6 shooting pistols, if possible, a shotgun or rifle. William Riley Huckobey enlisted as a private in Company E, Frontier Regiment of the Texas State Troops or Texas Rangers, with Colonel James M. Norris commanding under Captain N.D. McMillin on February 20th, 1862 in Burnett County. Huckobey served from March 12th to June 30th, 1862 at the rate of $12 per month. His total monthly pay amounted to $43.60. Huckobey was given allowances for using his own horse, rifle, pistol, and for clothing, which raised his overall total pay to $91.64. Huckobey's stepson, James Tanner, served in the same company of Texas Rangers. According to the muster roll index and the original muster rolls, the company did actually have a fight with Indians on April 2nd, 1862. Huckobey moved his family to Lockhart in Caldwell County before his Texas Ranger service. Once Huckobey had completed his service, he, with the help of his stepsons, Isaac and Solomon Tanner, obtained a Texas land grant for 320 acres in Blanco County. Ranch Road 32 currently runs to the top right corner of the land, and Spring Creek Road runs right down the middle of the land if you ever want to try to go and visit. And you might want to try to go and visit because we'll hear what happened there here in a little bit. Blanco remains one of the more notorious frontier counties that suffered many Indian depredations or attacks. Huckobey wound up rejoining the Texas Rangers in Blanco County. William Riley Huckobey, at age 49, enlisted again for service in the Texas State Troops or Texas Rangers on January 30th, 1864 in Blanco County. The Blanco County Company was part of the 3rd Frontier District under the command of Brigadier General J.D. McAdoo, and the Blanco County captain was R.J. Irving. Huckobey served for 28 days between January 30th and May 31st, 1864 at the rate of $2 per day and received a total payment of $48. The Civil War ended in April 1865, but the Indian threat continued. Huckobey's 2 oldest daughters became of age to get married during and just after the war. Lydia Huckobey married William Newton and gave birth to a son named William Newton Jr. in 1863. Elizabeth Betty Huckobey, the second daughter, married William Irving, or Nestor, Shepherd on January 3rd, 1866 in Bexar County, and they had a son named Joel Shepherd later in 1866. On the morning of July 2nd, 1867, a small party set out from Huckobey's place near Lockhart. It consisted of Nestor Shepherd, age 23, his wife, Betty Huckobey Shepherd, age 18, who was William Riley Huckobey's daughter, their child, Joel Shepherd, age 1, and Huckobey's son, Thomas, age 15. Remaining behind was Mary Carolyn Huckobey, age 16, Martha Ellen Huckobey, age 11, and William Riley Huckobey Jr., age 8, along with their mother, Betsey, who was 53. Mary Carolyn Huckobey watched her brother, Tommy, ride away with her older sister. She was on a side-saddled mare and he was on a mule. It was the last time she ever saw them. The four riders were heading to Blanco City. It was a long day's ride. Nestor Shepherd was employed by William Riley Huckobey, and they were all supposed to help round up cattle as they rode to a cow camp that Huckobey had set up near the Tanner place, 3 miles from Blanco. The four did not make good time, for they had to stop short of their destination. In the morning of July 3rd, they continued on, but ran into a band of Comanches who were raiding into Comal and Blanco County. The first time that they had penetrated that far into settlements in the past 15 years. Lost my place. Oh, there we are. Okay. The raiders made quick work of the whites. They shot a bullet and nearly 10 arrows into Nestor Shepherd and put at least 7 arrows into Betty Shepherd's back, one of them coming clear through to her breast. They cut Joel's head off and threw it some distance from the body. All were stripped and scalped. Thomas Huckobey was carried off. When they did not arrive at Isaac Tanner's place on time to help with the cow camp, Huckobey got uneasy about them and started back down the trail to find them. 4 miles away and 7 miles from the Blanco County Courthouse, he found the bodies. Huckobey rushed back with the news. Huckobey went back to the massacre scene with his stepson, Isaac Tanner, neighbor John R. Palmer, and a few others. Sam and Isaac Tanner wrapped the badly mutilated bodies in sheets and buried them on the side of the trail. Sam Tanner rode all the way to Lockhart to tell his mother and the other Huckobey children what happened. They recognized the arrows and one moccasin left behind as belonging to the Comanches. Realizing they could do nothing more there, they gathered up other settlers, and the searchers followed the Indian trail. In addition to Huckobey's 2 horses and mule that they took from Shepherd, the Comanches stole about 40 horses from Bill Jonas and several more from Ben Shropshire and the Trainer brothers, who lived only a half a mile from the Tanners. They hit the Knupper, Fischer, Riziniski, Wagenfuhrer, and Harsdorf, a lot of German names, places, and got another 50 horses. Then they quickly vacated the county. The pursuers traveled more than 150 miles, said Palmer, to see if we could not get back the boy. They finally gave up and rode home. We never saw or heard of him afterwards, said Isaac Tanner. The Huckobey family suffered a terrible tragedy, but life went on. On January 21st, 1869, Mary Carolyn Huckobey married George William Slaughter in Bexar County, and William Riley Huckobey was able to register to vote in Caldwell County on November 25th, 1869, after having lost the right to vote for living in the Confederacy during the Civil War. On July 3rd, 1870, Martha Ellen Huckobey married James Thomas, or Jim Gunn, in Guadalupe County. Lydia Huckobey Newton was on to her second husband, John Daniel Morgan, and had a daughter named Hattie Morgan, who later married Jesse Sinclair Gunn, brother of Jim Gunn. Everybody's eyes just go crosswise. It's a complicated connection. The 1870 U.S. Census lists the remaining members of the Huckobey family living in Lockhart, including William Riley Huckobey, a 53-year-old laborer, his wife Betsey, a 56-year-old housekeeper, and 10-year-old William Riley Huckobey Jr. Living next door was Martha Ellen, age 14, and Jim Gunn, age 20. Betsey Huckobey died sometime during 1872 in Texas. Her final resting place is unknown. William Riley Huckobey Jr. married Louisa Snyder on February 12, 1879 in Bexar County. Two of Martha Ellen and Jim Gunn's sons were named after both of their grandfathers. George Riley Gunn and William Thomas Gunn were both named after their grandfathers, William Riley Huckobey and George Thomas Gunn. And George Thomas Gunn is buried right there, for those of you who didn't know. In 1880, William Riley Huckobey bought 53.5 acres of land in Bexar County from John and Judith Winsett, whose grandson John Oliver Winsett later married Huckobey's granddaughter Martha Ella Gunn in 1907. About 24 years after the tragedy, in 1891, William Riley Huckobey, then living in Amphion, Atascosa County, Texas, filed an Indian depredation claim, case number 3474, for his losses in July of 1867. He claimed the loss of 2 horses, a mule, 2 saddles, and 1 side saddle for a total of $224. He also claimed $20,000 for the loss of his killed and captured children. The bureaucracy worked slowly, and Huckobey died on July 14, 1893, before his claim was resolved. He was a member of the Oak Island Methodist Church and is buried at Oak Island Cemetery. His daughter, Mary Carolyn, now Mrs. M.C. Slaughter, became legal representative for her deceased father. Witness depositions were still being taken as late as 1905, when an article appeared in the San Antonio Daily Light covering the revived tragedy. Finally, the court ruled in favor of a $224 payment to Mrs. Slaughter, minus $44 in attorney's fees. Since the government did not pay for injury or death to humans, the $20,000 claim was dismissed. No one knew what happened to Thomas Huckobey, or did they? Authors Gregory and Susan Mincho, who wrote the book I was telling you about, believe that Thomas Huckobey may have become assimilated with the Indians and may have become the white Indian known as Tejan, or Texan in Spanish. The story of the Huckobey tragedy is written in the Mincho's book titled A Fate Worse Than Death, Indian Captives in the West, 1830 to 1835. W.R. Huckobey fought the Indians and ultimately paid for it. So that's the life story of our ancestor, William Riley Huckobey. Okay. I think that's pretty well got it. Thank you, though. And then, where's Ray Martinez here?
I think Mike's going to do it.
Mike's going to do it?
Mike. You don't do the ranger?
Ranger. Yeah, just tell everybody a little bit about the former Texas Ranger Association.
Well, y'all understand that I'm not a former ranger, but I have 14 in my family. And my son back here, with a beautiful beard, has 3 more from his mama, so he's got 17. There's a lot of history here today with y'all, in case you don't know. Pat Jackson right back here. Raise your little hand. She's a cousin of mine. We're out of Gordon Jennings, the oldest defender of the Alamo. The other day she found out she's also out of her daddy down here, an old 300 descendant. Greg?
Yes, sir.
Come here. This is Greg Gillespie. He is a grand-nephew to Captain Robert Gillespie, whom they named Gillespie County for, and they're Irish. So you name a German community for an Irishman. That's a politician. Mike Covington on the right over here, and his grandson. Mike is a descendant of Trinidad Coy, who is a survivor of the Alamo. And his Trinidad's daddy got here in 1720. He's pre-Canary Island. He was a Spanish soldier. And also, Julie, his wife isn't out of the car, I guess. But Jaden's grandmother is a Bowie. And she is the only proven descendant of Jim Bowie. She is a great niece. Jim Bowie, both of his sons died of typhoid or something. And so he doesn't have any descendants directly. But she's the first one we've been able to prove. I've met lots of Bowies, but they can't prove it. And Bill Patterson back here, he is also got 5 Texas Rangers he knows of in his family, all of them buried up here in the hill country. And what was that little old town?
X?
Yeah. Y'all know where that is?
Between Mason and Menard, and you'll blink, if you blink, you'll miss it.
Big major patrol, kind of like where we are right now.
No, this is a lot bigger.
But we do these memorials for other descendants like yourselves. We do about 10 a year, and all over the state. We try not to go any further than San Saba or Santa Ana or Brownwood or down here. But we get around pretty good. We call ourselves the Moses Austin Rangers because nobody else will claim us. We're a liability, I guess. But anyway, the association has been in existence since like 1893. It was put together primarily by a man you probably know, Rip Ford, and very famous Texas Ranger and a Confederate veteran leader. And he also served as a superintendent of the school for the Texas School for the Deaf shortly before he died. So therefore, we go to the School of the Deaf every April and put on a program with the black powder for those deaf kids, and they can hear the cannons. Well, they feel it. They can't hear it, but they can feel that service. And they love it. And but that's the main thing we do. Every May 5th or the first Saturday of May, we have a big reunion up at Fredericksburg at the Heritage Center there, and barbecue and so forth. And we've got Texas Ranger Day coming up here next Saturday at the Fredericksburg Heritage Center. And they'll have several real good historical speakers talking there. But if any of y'all wish to join, talk to Devin here, or you can Google up the former Texas Rangers Association and get an application and everything. It's not hard to do. And that's about all I can tell them about it. And us. Yeah. Some of us are wanted. We have to go now.
Thank you. All right, we're ready to unveil the cross, Dad and Sharon. Yeah. This is my dad, Ronnie Pipes. He's a third great-grandson. And this is Sharon Walker. She's a great, two great-granddaughter. We're all ready for you to do the Ranger Prayer.
All right. Bow with me if you would for the Ranger's Prayer.
God, whose end is justice, whose strength is all our stay, be near and bless my mission as I go forth today. Let wisdom guide my actions. Let courage fill my heart. Help me, O Lord, in every hour to do a ranger's part. Protect when danger threatens. Sustain when trails are rough. Help me to keep my standard high and smile at each rebuff. When night comes down upon me, I pray thee, Lord, be nigh. Whether on lonely scout or camps under the Texas sky. Keep me, O God, in life, and when my days shall end, forgive my sins and take me in. For Jesus' sake, amen. Now I'll turn it over to the Rangers for a black powder salute. We're going to do a 3-gun salute, and then we're going to shoot 3 times the cannon 3 times.
Fire! Ready. Aim. Fire! Ready. Aim. Fire!
Not big ones.
Look at that question.
We're going to shoot 3 times, and I'm going to say fire in the hole when it's about time it's going off. So maybe hold your ears and be prepared. That'll be okay right there. Yep. Fire in the hole. We have a family member that might want to do this, pull the cannon string. You have to be over 18.
Oh, you're good. Oh, good.
I mean, I do this all the time, so it's not that much for me. Did you see how I did it? So put this on here. We'll just hold it tight. Don't pull it until we tell you to pull it. Stay down the road like that. And I'll set it up for you. Just pull it tight. Just have it tight. till you win. Fire in the hole, folks.
Damn, it feels like it's like right here on you.
Gonna do one more. Does it? Anybody else that like to do it?
He would.
Okay. Good job, David.
This is my fourth great grandfather.
Goes your daddy.
Can you see him? Y'all ready? Fire in the hole.